If you've ever thought, whatever it is, I'll make my way through it, but internally you're suffering, this is an episode for you. Welcome back to the Broken to Brave podcast. Today, I have Jen on with me, and I met her in a business program that I'm in, and she has been through the ringer. I am just going to say it like that, and come out the other side in a way that is quite inspiring. When I was getting to know her, I'll just talk to you, Jen. When I was getting to know you, I was listening to your story, and I almost started crying. I'm not afraid of tears, so I'll just say that. And what you've been able to create in your life and take from hardship, rather than seeing it as this is happening to me, you have integrated in a way where it happened for you. And now you're helping so many more people. And so I'm just going to turn it to you. Tell us a little bit about who you are. Maybe we can start on before. Who were you? What did life look like? What were you going through?
Yeah, I'm super happy to be here. I love that we get to continue this conversation and share it with your audience. So I guess in a nutshell, my whole life, I would say I am a very curious person. I have always been drawn to the natural world, to science, how do things work, and kind of breaking them down, figuring them out. I'm a problem solver, but I also can never shut this brain off. So I'm always working on something. I'm go, go, go all the time, never idle, which is good and bad. So as a child, always drawn to science. It wasn't a surprise that academically, that's where I was drawn. I've always loved animals. I always kind of wanted to work in that space where I could help people or help animals, something like that. And I ultimately ended up going to school to work in infectious diseases. And specifically, I spent 20 years of my life in research for malaria, which is a disease that affects our most vulnerable populations, pregnant women, mostly little kids, largely in Africa. So I spent about 20 years in research and then transitioned to humanitarian work and spent time really in the trenches in these communities and helping them to live better lives. And so I looked like this woman who I had the family, I had the job, I had the status, was making the money, was living comfortably. I was able to live overseas and kind of have that expat life. And I think from the outside, I looked very much like this is this woman who has it together. But I'm a very private person, and I would rather just keep my struggles to myself. And
well, I'm going to say thank you for coming on and sharing.
Well, that was then. This
Okay,
is now.
yeah.
So let's say that. And it wasn't so much about wanting to maintain appearances of having this perfect life that I dreamed of. It's almost about not wanting to accept what's actually happening to you and the things that you're experiencing, because it's easier to just shove them down.
People think it's easier.
Right. And in the end, it's not. It's not good for you. But that was how I operated, right? The default setting was shove it down. There's no feelings. There's no other way but through. So just power on, right? And to the detriment, physically, mentally, emotionally, it definitely took its toll. So that's really the kind of person I am, right? Go, 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 lean in. I was the woman trying to have it all.
Yeah. And just some of the things that you said, you share your character and your heart for helping some of the most vulnerable. And I think that says a lot about you. And then the last thing you said, maybe you can elaborate, shoving it down and the implications that had on you. Can you talk a bit more about your journey?
Like most of us, suffering is the common thread that unites us. And I think I've had my fair share. And one of the first things that really knocked me down was a cancer diagnosis in my early 30s. I'm good now. That was many years ago at this point. My son was 2. So to be faced with your own mortality while you've kind of just brought a new life into the world, while you are working so hard and trying to have everything, was really challenging. And at that point, I just felt very betrayed by my body. I kind of went through a lot of self-loathing, just kind of about how could this happen to me. And from someone who really kind of wanted to live to serve and to help others, went to a very dark place.
It makes sense.
Right? Like not even just the immediate ramifications about your family, your child, but sort of existential crisis kind of stuff. Like there's no purpose to any of this.
What's the point of this?
Yeah, we live, we die, and we go back into the earth. And I was kind of coming at this from a very bleak place. So I think that was really the first serious thing in my life that started to kind of take me down a notch in terms of how I was living and how I was operating.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Fortunately, I came out the other side of that and I've been cancer-free. I'm in a good place. Yeah.
Thank goodness.
And I'd like to say that was the worst of it, but unfortunately, I think there were a series.
It was just the first.
Yes, there were a series of unfortunate events that I think unfolded after that. And rebounding from that place, I had this amazing opportunity to move my young family to Australia for a job for me, actually. And it is dream city, dream job, and really felt, this is the new beginning. I'm going to start fresh. And of course, the job was incredibly demanding. It was in research at the time where you work long hours. You're there in the lab on the weekends, not just during the week. And it was a challenge for my marriage and my relationship. And he graciously moved with me. He was excited, but it was definitely challenging for him in figuring out what is he doing next in his career and his life. And while it was great opportunities for the both of us, I think it was very clear that our paths were diverging. And so unfortunately, I experienced sort of the deterioration of my marriage over the time that we were there, where it ultimately ended. Yeah, so that's hard. Then you can't have your cake and eat it too, apparently, because it was the dream job, the dream city.
Right.
And then everything fell apart. And now it's, you have to move back to the US.
Yeah, and obviously, I don't know the details, and we don't need to know the details, but you were hustling in that job, working during the week, on the weekend, and it was so
challenging
much for a relationship, for a person, for a family. Yeah. So you came back, you're physically healthy, in remission, spouseless. And how are you navigating life in that moment?
So I would say this is probably the lowest point of my life. Well, one of the lowest points, because what a lot of people don't realize about academia and being in scientific research specifically is that until you become really like kind of tenure track faculty somewhere, you're just being able to make ends meet, especially if you live in an expensive city.
Yeah.
So it's not like that everywhere. And, I lived the good life when I was in Australia. They paid very well. And I moved back to the US, fortunately was able to find a job at the National Institutes of Health, very prestigious laboratory, excellent opportunity for me, but my salary was more than halved.
Wow.
So moving back to Washington, D.C., very expensive city, making not even $50,000 a year as a single mom.
Oof.
Yeah. So it was challenging, not being able to make ends meet, living in a one-bedroom apartment, having the same pressures to work to keep, because you have to, publish or perish. You've got to create new work. You have to have findings. You have to publish them. So that was life, and that was brutal.
Jen,
it was brutal.
My goodness.
Yeah.
Even just hearing you reflect back, published or perish. Yeah.
That's how it felt. And it's in this very toxic environment where you are with some of the best scientists in your field and everybody is pushing so hard. And the push that you feel to succeed is such a weight on your shoulders. It's unbelievable. I don't think people realize how stressful it is.
I'm sure.
And all to I got one paper out of a year of blood, sweat, and tears, right?
Quite literally.
Yes.
Yeah. I have a PhD too, so I didn't go into that world, but I was doing research. And so I can relate on a tiny level. And I'm like, oh, this is bringing back a lot.
It's rough. And, it is also tough for a woman and even tougher for a woman who can't spend 24/7 in the laboratory. So when you have home commitments and children to take care of and you trying to do it by yourself, it's seemingly impossible. And I definitely had a lot of resentment towards me from other people that I would come in, do my work and leave, and they were there late into the night. And I would bring my son with me on the weekends, which is, yeah. So it was a really hard time. And ultimately, it was not the environment for me. It was slowly sucking the life out of me. So I knew I had to make a change.
If someone listening right now is feeling like what they're doing, where they are, the environment that they're in, maybe it's work, maybe it's a relationship, maybe it's something else, is slowly sucking the life out of them. With your wisdom now, what advice do you have for them?
I think,
Or maybe what did you need to hear? Because some people they stay in it.
Yeah, they do. I kind of still stayed in it. I just changed the environment and the outcome a little bit. I think you have to know your own worth and you really have to listen to your gut. And I think at that time, I really took a step back and said, what am I actually doing here? Do I actually care about being published in this high impact journal? Do I actually care about that? Or at the end of the day, am I more interested in helping people in a real tangible way, which is how I got into this work to begin with. And when I stepped back and thought about that, I was like, yeah, I don't want to live based on did I get a new grant or not. I want to actually be able to help people all the time. And yeah, it was being able to.
That's good advice.
Yeah, you just got to step back and be honest with yourself about why are you actually doing something versus what is your real motivation? What's actually going to be satisfying to you as a person, but also whatever industry you're working in, how is it going to benefit that?
What are my values? What am I here to do? Am I actually here wherever I am because I've been on autopilot? What happens when I pause, I zoom out, and I look at my life? Is this what I want?
Yeah. 100%.
And some people, the answer is, I don't know what I want. And my rebuttal for that, I used to say that, and I believed it, is that part of you does.
Yeah.
And part of it's slowing down enough to listen to her.
100%. And I think we are all very afraid to be beginners. We're really afraid to start as this newbie who knows nothing, right?
That's true.
And I think it's such an amazing skill to be able to be a beginner again. And I think if more people could approach change in that way, it would go so much better.
Yeah. I can't remember if I heard somebody say this recently, came across it, but when our kids are little and they're beginners and they're learning something, the way that we show up for them and that everybody shows up is excitement and belief and just knowing that they are going to be able to do what they're setting out to do.
Yeah.
And at some point that shifts and we stop believing that that is still what's going to happen and that it's not hard because we're incapable. It's hard because it's new.
Well, we do get set in our ways, right? We create patterns in so many ways, like conscious and subconsciously, in how we think, how we speak, how we act, our behaviors. It's really hard to break out of those patterns. And starting over and accepting that you know nothing is really hard, especially when you talk about your livelihood.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. So what's next in the journey that has led you to being who you are today?
Yeah. So that big professional step was out of research and into the federal government. And I took an amazing position with the U.S. Agency for International Development, it's all called USAID. And this was an awesome opportunity to apply all of the science to real world programs that were actually happening on the ground. And it was a fantastic experience. I traveled to some very remote places. I got to meet all kinds of people from all walks of life. and really got to see in real time saving people's lives. And it was amazing. And I finally thought I've struck this work-life balance. I am satisfied as a person intellectually, but also with other people. And I'm being paid my worth. I was able to buy a house at some point and have a childhood home for my son. So I felt life is great. And of course, right when you think everything is great is when the universe tends to give you another lesson, right?
Yeah.
And that's exactly what happened. And I can remember so vividly, I was coming home from a trip to Geneva. This was a work trip. And I landed at Dulles Airport. And as we do, we turn on the phone. What did I miss?
Yeah.
And I had a voicemail from my best friend's partner to let me know that she had passed away suddenly. And it was like everything just stopped. Now, I think it's important to say that I don't really have childhood friends. I grew up in an era when we did not have cell phones or the internet. And I grew up in a military family. I went to 8 schools before I graduated high school. I don't really have childhood friends. And this was my oldest friend, I would say like a sister. And it really just destroyed me. And there was really no escape from it. It was just an overwhelming sense that I just carried with me all the time. And this is where I just finally broke and was like, I can't. This is not something that I can just push through. There's no logical solution to this. This is not something that just requires patience and effort. It's always going to be there. There's this quote that I came across at that time because, of course, my intellectual brain is, let me read about this and figure out the quick trick to get over grief, right? And I read this line somewhere that said that grief is just love that has no place to go.
Yes,
And
I love that one.
that is it in a nutshell. That is grief. And so I desperately began trying to figure out where to put that love. So I had a yoga practice off and on. It was something I started in my 20s at the gym, this random studio. It was about just being healthy and in shape. But I remembered how I felt in those 60 minutes on the mat, that you're not thinking about anything else. You're just focused on breathing and moving and being present. So I was like, let me pull out my mat. I know the sequence. Let me just do the practice. And I just started doing it every day. And it was the small bit of time during the day where I wasn't feeling completely overwhelmed. And it kind of pulled me into more about yoga and wanting to, like, okay, this is great while I'm on my mat and maybe for an hour or so after, but then I go right back to feeling awful again. So how can I make this last?
Yes. I love that you asked yourself that question.
Yeah. So it opened up a whole Pandora's box. And I was like, what can I do? What are other practices that are going to allow me to feel this good and feel better longer? And it was a natural progression. I discovered pranayama, which is yogic breathing, and started trying to figure that out and learn that, which really was powerful in moments where I would lose control, to figure out how do I get myself back under control, and tried to learn more about how can I actually integrate this in my life so that I'm not living to react and redirect, but rather can I be on a more even keel and exist in this more reflective space all the time?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that breathing and meditation became a natural part of my life. And it was amazing. All of a sudden, I felt like, oh, I can function again, right? I can put some space between my thoughts and my emotions and understand that they're there, but I'm not them. They're there, but I don't need to let them. Yes, exactly. I'm not identifying with them. They're not actually really who I am.
Yes.
And so it just gave me space to carry what I needed to carry without being consumed by it.
Beautiful. So many people, and for sure, so many times in my life, just absolutely consumed by it. And it feels like that's all that's present.
Yep.
When in reality, when we build that observational self, there's so many things that are happening within us.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that are separate. Like, yeah, I have thoughts. I have these emotions. I have this fear. I have these desires. I love that you honored the urge, if you would call it, to start doing the practice again. And then you continued honoring that intuition and that urge that came through with, okay, let me lean into this a bit more. This feels
Yeah.
right.
Yeah. And what I knew was that I didn't want to go to a yoga studio. I was like, I don't want to be around people. I don't want to have music. I don't want my state to be influenced by the teacher, the people around me. And fortunately, I had the body awareness and I had done the practice before. And it is a particular type of yoga that is a set sequence. So there's no creativity required. You literally show up and you do what has to be done. And so it just made it very easy for me. And I'm a disciplined person by nature.
I couldn't tell.
It's not hard for me to just set up I thrive in a routine. Give me a routine, right? So it was easy to just start integrating that into my life. And it ultimately just, my natural curiosity wanted more. I was getting so much out of it, not just in terms of getting over this, you never really get over loss like that, but being able to live with it was such a phenomenal shift for me. And just the way that it was starting to change me in general, in how I was just talking to people. I found myself listening more and talking less. I felt just becoming a little bit more compassionate, and other people started to notice it. And I would have my family, my mom say things to me about like, you seem really different. So,
Yeah, that's validating.
yeah, it was like, okay, something is working here. So I was like, okay, I'm going to branch out. I'm going to start moving back into the yoga community and interacting with other people. So I started doing that, and really it just continued to kind of blossom. I eventually did my very first teacher training and had zero intention to become a yoga teacher, but it turns out I'm pretty good at it and I enjoyed it. And so I started teaching, and I'm still working the job.
Okay.
I'm still raising the son, but now I'm teaching yoga.
Which you could never anticipate. I want to like pause there. So many want to figure out all the next steps to be able to get where they want to get, A through Z. And we just can't possibly anticipate what can bloom in our lives.
It's like, hurry up and wait and see is like what it is. It's like, can we just slow down and appreciate what we're experiencing in the moment? It's so hard. In this day and age, it's really, really challenging to do. And I definitely felt that yoga 100% made that switch for me from what am I doing tomorrow, next week, next month, next year, 10 years to, oh, wow, isn't this awesome? This experience I'm having right now.
Yeah.
Great. Yeah, yoga, man. Never in a million years would I have thought. I was definitely very anti-woo. I didn't want any part of the spirituality of it. As a scientist, you're all about, give me the hard facts.
Yeah.
Give me the evidence. And a lot of scientists, they lean towards atheists. They don't believe that there's anything else. And I will say that this experience really showed me that the science will only take you so far. And that starting to let myself lean into the spirituality that a yoga practice offers you just blew up my whole life, but like in the best possible way.
In the best possible way. Wow. Okay. So at that time, working full time, teaching yoga, raising your son, and then what next?
Yeah, so I became an accidental entrepreneur is what I like to say, because I made a lot of friends in the yoga community locally. And one in particular, we taught at some of the same studios, we practiced together, and we started doing yoga retreats together locally. And then we ultimately both came to a place where the studios we were teaching were not just like quite aligned with what we wanted to be offering. And we separately both started renting time at a private gym that had a small space. And so we were offering classes independently in the same location. And we had students that were coming to see both of us who were starting to ask, oh, it would be really great if we could have a membership and see both of you. And we just said, let's just let's just see if we can maybe sublet a space like this. And the space we were in wasn't really an option for that. And so we started looking, can we sublet at like a dance studio or another gym? And where do you go to find something like that? So I get on Craigslist of all places. Can I find somebody who's got some cheap space that they will be willing to sublet? And the universe struck and was like, no, you're not going to sublet a place. You're going to lease your own place. And there was this perfect space that was insanely affordable. And all they wanted was 1 year. If anybody knows anything about commercial real estate, they normally want like a 5-year lease. Yeah. It's a ton of money that you have to put up front. And we just want first and last month's rent and 1 year lease. And so my friend Michelle looked at each other and we said, let's just do it. Let's just see if we can make it work. And we signed the lease in October. We opened our doors in December, and that was that.
Wow. Okay, I want to point something out here because so many people, they might even have a dream or an urge, or they want to do something. And the next question they ask themselves is how? How am I ever going to make that happen? And what you pointed out, and I just want to emphasize, is your job is not the how. That's the universe. That's God. That's whoever you want to refer to. And our job is, as clearly as possible, what do I want? And at that moment, you knew, I want to have a studio, and then to take inspired action. And you could have seen that really great priced studio and, oh, what if this, I don't know, installed. But you trusted yourself and the process and Michelle.
Yeah. And it was a funny process creating the schedule. And we had this vision of this dream space, this community that we could create to really help people in the same way that this practice helped us. Michelle has an equally powerful story as me. A lot of yogis do. And we went back and forth on, well, if we position it like this, we won't attract these people. But if we call it that, people will be freaked out by it. And we were like, you know what? No, we know what we want to offer. We're going to try it. It's 1 year. If it doesn't work, we know this is how much money we're going to lose, and we could both stomach that. So we just did it, and it worked. Yeah.
And you were probably some part of you willing to learn. If it doesn't work out, we're going to learn a lot.
I tell you what, I thought that I learned a lot about myself through my yoga practice to that point. Entrepreneurship is like the shadow work that you do is unreal. The way that you have to revisit your values and just
insecurities, fears, all of it
on the daily.
Oh yeah.
From what clients say, feedback you get, rejection that happens, partnerships that don't work, you name it. There's a daily lesson in entrepreneurship.
It is personal development on steroids.
Yes.
It is the best and hardest thing I've ever done in my life.
Yes. So lots of challenges there, but it all worked out. And so it started as me and Michelle pretty much teaching everything, and it wasn't a full schedule. And we grew that and hired a bunch of fantastic teachers that were aligned with us in terms of what the practice really is about. And we've been able to host some really prominent guest teachers from all over the place, training new teachers. So it has thrived, which is amazing.
Is your studio, I forgot to ask you, is it still open?
It is. It is. So it's
okay. Where is it? If somebody listening is like near you and wants to go,
definitely. So our studio is based in Fairfax, Virginia, which is just outside of Washington, D.C. It's called Yoga Commons. So it's really for the people. We built it for the community, and it's a great one. We love it.
Wonderful. I hope somebody listening is local and then can come and say, oh, I heard you on the podcast with Steph. Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah. So I know at that time you're working full time. You opened the studio. It's becoming more and more successful. And then there was a moment not too long ago where there was a big shift.
Yeah, right. So again, the universe doesn't hold back any punches. And as soon as it knows it can deliver a new opportunity and lesson for you to grow, I feel like it does, because I was really thriving. And I will say the work-life balance was not great,
Yeah.
but I was loving almost every minute of it. I had a career I was super passionate about. I was building this community, this yoga studio. My son was growing up. He was doing great. Everything was really great. And then last year, we elected a new president, and that president chose to shut down my agency overnight. And that was it. 20 years gone.
No, now you didn't have that full-time job anymore, suddenly, literally overnight.
It's just gone. And it was thousands of people,
I
not just
remember
me.
in the news how many people didn't have a job suddenly.
And the wild thing about that is how different I felt about what was happening compared to everything else. All the other challenges that I had experienced, right? Cancer, divorce, having to move when you don't want to move from one country to the other, like all of these things. All of a sudden it was just like, okay, this is happening. And it almost,
Surrender.
it was surrender through and through. And I was so clearly able to see what I needed to do. And fortunately, I had the studio and knew, hey, I have this other thing and I love this thing. And in my mind, it was clear it's time to shift. You have been doing this work and serving in this way for a really long time. It's now the moment to shift gears, and you can continue to help people. You're just going to do it in a different way.
In a way you never anticipated.
Never in a million years
But
would I
that
have
you
said,
have the heart for.
yeah, and then just in a different way, right? So I just started taking the steps. And the hardest one was selling my house because I'd raised my son there. That was very emotional for me.
Yeah, that makes
But
sense.
it's the things you do to create a safety net for yourself. And fortunately, it gave me quite a nice safety net so that I didn't have to worry, okay, if I fail, if this doesn't work, am I going to be able to make ends meet?
We'll be okay.
And I'll be okay. And things have just been aligning. I'm still doing some consulting, very small projects, and that has just happened naturally without much effort, which is great because it still allows me to keep a little bit in that world,
Yeah.
which I still very much love. And I have some amazing relationships with colleagues that it's a great opportunity to be able to keep those. But I've been able to put my whole heart into sharing this practice with other people. And now it's created all this time and space for me to move beyond like the physical space of my yoga studio into the world. So it gave me an opportunity to bring this practice to a virtual space and work with people online, which has been amazing. And that kind of started with some one-on-one. And I will say that the way that I teach yoga in that one-on-one space is actually very much less the movement practice and very much helping people integrate the breathing, the meditation, and the philosophy. Mm-hmm. How do you actually take this ancient philosophy to live a better life? So that's mostly what I was working with one-on-one students to do.
And the universe gave you this opportunity to witness yourself when that agency was shut down, to notice, wow, I don't know for sure for you, but how you would have reacted to that, whether it would have been spiraling or catastrophizing or doom and gloom. And you were able to look at it objectively, evaluate what the next best steps were, allow the emotions, and then step into a place where you're helping people even more.
Yeah, and I think it's important to say that the work is not bypassing the emotions, right?
Yeah.
You are still acknowledging that they're there and you still have moments. I had many cries. I had many days where I was like, I'm sleeping in. I don't want to get up. I need a moment for myself.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, you were like, it's all good. I'm suffering right now. Like, I feel a little sad about this.
Yeah.
But that is temporary.
Yes. We're here to feel all of it, but the emotions don't have to control you.
Exactly.
Okay, so I would love for you to share if people listening are resonating and they are interested, that maybe they're not in, did you say Virginia? Mm-hmm. Yep, Fairfax. Okay, if they're not in that area, but they're like, oh, this is really intriguing. Anything you have going on that they could plug into?
Yeah, so I am expanding my opportunities to work with me. And like I said, I tend to focus on the parts of yoga that are less accessible to people locally, most of us can go find a place to learn the movement component of a yoga practice. And it's a fantastic place to start. But for those that want to go deeper, learning how to work with yogic breathing techniques, meditation, and integrating like living yoga philosophy is really what I focus on. And so at the moment, I am offering a free opportunity for people to experience what yogic breathing can do for you. And it's sort of a guided 5-day experience that will first, your breath tells you so much. And if you just listen to it, it's going to tell you what's really happening versus what this is trying to tell you, right? Yeah. And so it's kind of helping people to drop into that space and really actually connect to what's going on. And then learn some techniques that will actually shift that state very easily if you do them. So it's sort of an introduction to how powerful the practice can be if you let it. Yeah, so that's what I've got going on right now.
Beautiful. And I'll put the link for that in the show notes. And then anybody listening who feels intrigued and want to plug into this, you can just click the link in the show notes and then register with Jen. Yeah. Okay. I have, unless there's anything else you want to share, I have one last question.
Let's do it.
Okay. You know, this is the Broken to Brave podcast. And if someone listening right now, maybe they've been resonating with parts of your story and they have also had times where they felt broken, or they might even feel broken right now, physically, emotionally, mentally, or some mix of those, what would you want them to know?
I think the hardest thing for us when we're in that situation is to trust that all the answers are here. They're not out there. And just listen to yourself. Yes. Trust that the answers are in here. And that ultimately what you said was perfect. Everything is not happening to you, it's happening for you. So try to keep that in mind and know that those answers are inside you. You've got them in there. You just have to trust them.
I couldn't agree more. Thank you so much for coming on today, Jen.
Thanks for having me.
I appreciate you.